Are you struggle with ADHD or you one of those multitasking just like me? More like a dropping tasking. Well, today we're going to be talking about that and even more. I have a special guest, Veronica Trevilla. Thank you for being here. And one more episode of Mentes Progresivas. I'm your host, Omar Prieto. And today it's close to my heart, especially because I have ADHD. And you're a specialist. You had 20 years of background working with people with ADHD. Not just that, but now you created a program which you help people that struggle with ADHD. You helping them on trying to focus on a little more. Your program is something that you took off from graduating from the school, the JCT coaching school. And for me, it's very interesting. The name of the program, Focus Mind Coaching Program. I want you to tell me a little bit about your story of working on for 20 years in that particular career. But now, when you made your transition, I want you to talk a little bit more about that, just to get a little background, and then we're just gonna dive into all the ins and outs of ADHD, which I'm really excited about it. Welcome, Veronica. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Omar, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor. And I think it's going to be, it's also a topic that's very dear to me. And so to give you a little bit of background, I went to my medical training here in Miami, and I was in school to be a physician assistant, and I became a PA. And my first job was in adult neurology, and I worked in adult neurology for almost 3 years. And I loved adult neurology. It's a completely different specialty than pediatric neurology. But deep down in my heart, I knew that my calling was always to work with kids for that period of my life. And I always dreamed of being working in some type of pediatric specialty or pediatric practice. So when the opportunity to work in pediatric neurology came up, I took it immediately. And that was back in July of 2002. So it's been a while. So I've been 22 years now in pediatric neurology. And in that specific field, where the need was at that time was in developing an ADHD clinic within the hospital that I am affiliated with. And so I was trained clinically on the job in ADHD, how to diagnose it, how to treat it, how to counsel families and parents. And through that training, I started to realize I was looking in a mirror, and that I was recognizing all of the struggles that I had had as a child growing up. But I was more of the inattentive daydreamer type. So, and this was way back in, still in the last century, let's call it, in the 1900s,
Okay.
when we still didn't know as much about ADHD, right? And so we thought ADHD was more of just, the kids that are super hyper and can't sit still. But all through my educational years, I was never able to finish a required reading book. Like if I had to read a novel for like my English class or something like that, I just couldn't get through it. And I excelled in school because I was smart enough to get through, and I found ways to manage and ways to, you find your defense mechanisms or your little tricks, right? Your hacks that work for you. And I always was able to do that. And I was very successful. Got through college, although I did change my major about 3 or 4 times in college. So I didn't finish in the normal 4 years. I finished my undergraduate in like 5.5 years. And on that side, I was still on the medical track to go to medical school. And then once I was in graduate school for my master's degree, I decided I wanted to pivot and shift and go over to PA school rather than med school, just because at that point I was already, getting close into my 30s and figuring out, oh gosh, the thought of starting medical school at 30 was like a little bit overwhelming to me. As with most people with ADHD, right? We see a big hurdle or a big goal or a big task, And we can work on it because we know how to set goals and we're smart, but sometimes we can get so caught up in the overwhelm that we avoid, or we shy
Hmm.
away, or we don't live up to our fullest potential that maybe, maybe we could have reached at some point. So I'm being trained in ADHD. I'm loving my job. I'm realizing all the struggles that I had now that they have a name and now they make sense to me. And a few years down the road, I become a mom and my kids start to grow and develop and have super smart, fun, healthy kids. Thank goodness. Very blessed as a mom. But I start to see patterns in them too. And I have a boy and I have a girl. And so the way they manifest their ADHD, which by the way, fast forwarding, they're both diagnosed, is very different. And so it's been a struggle. So here I am with a career of diagnosing and treating, and I have ADHD myself, I'm realizing, and I'm a parent of two kids with ADHD. So it affected me all in three layers. It was my career, kind of my life calling. It's what I have and what I struggle with every day. And I'm learning from the parenting side firsthand, in addition to all this, evidence-based knowledge that I have through medicine. So um, it's really ingrained in my life. It's focus in 3D from
Okay.
all angles. Then comes the pandemic, and I realize we start working from home and doing a lot of telehealth. And I start realizing, like, wow, I love working from home. I love the autonomy of working, by myself and essentially with my patients one on one. What can I do for myself that can take all this knowledge and all this experience, but shift it into my next stage of my life where I can build something that I don't need to be tied to a doctor's medical practice? What can I
Mm.
do to help people in a different way, but use all this knowledge? And then that's when I found coaching, or realized,
Mm.
oh, coaching is a thing. I knew
Yeah.
coaching was a thing because I had coaching myself, and I had
Mm.
benefited and changed my life with coaching,
Mm.
with having a coach for me.
Yeah.
And so I found the Jay Shetty School. I was a Jay Shetty follower, and I enrolled in coaching, in the coaching school, went through the program, loved it, got wonderful skills, I think, and feedback, because coaching is very different from medicine. We're not medical professionals. We're not therapists. Coaching is very specific path, and
Yep.
I love it. So I decided to open my coaching practice shortly after graduating. And
Mm.
now I have services where I work with other professionals like me who struggle with focus just in their day-to-day lives, whether they're looking to conquer a work goal or a career goal, or they want help with just managing their day-to-day lives. Because sometimes managing
Mhm.
your day-to-day life can be very overwhelming when you have ADHD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sticking to
Mhm.
habits and creating routines and whatnot. Um, and also mixing it in with the fun of life and enjoying things too, because everything doesn't have to be a rigid routine either. Um,
Yep.
so that's a portion of my coaching. Another portion of my coaching is working directly with college students and
Mm.
late high school students, like 17 and up, let's say,
Okay.
that are working to learn how to improve their executive functioning skills in school, so they have more of an academic focus and goal. And then the third prong of my coaching program is parent consulting. So I
Mm.
do some consulting for other parents that are struggling, that have kids with ADHD, and maybe the parents need some skills or a mindset shift or some other tools to really help with the parenting side. So I kind of
Yeah.
have a three different services that I offer. My philosophy, though, is very holistic and very lifestyle based. And
Mm.
my whole, motto is that your focus is a product of your lifestyle. Because I really feel that, we get really deep into basic things like sleep.
Yeah.
nutrition, exercise, because when
Yeah.
those things are not, when we don't have those things mastered well, our focus is the first thing, is the most sensitive thing to get affected, because we're sensitive to that, those of us who have ADHD.
Yeah.
So I really try to set up a lifestyle approach to improving focus.
Thank you so much for the whole entire background, your history. It seems amazing to me the fact that you going from the whole entire, like, not necessarily like clinical. You have all this background on clinical and science behind you, but you decided to go in a holistic way. Along the journey, you learn different skills, different tools that now you're providing the people you work with. Another thing that stands to me is clearly the fact that you're going from one career to the next one, but you realize the need. In that need, you realize it going and working with parents, because when we're going to when you go to the physician, there's no time. It's the next. Nobody else pays attention to what really, like in this case, you are a consultant for parents. They have kids with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, hey, here's this tool so you can, that is, it's going to help you navigate with your kid. It's going to help you understand. I get a better understanding why your kid behaves certain ways, why it reacts, why sometimes he just speaks the way he speaks. Like why he cannot just sit still in one place. I'm one of those. I cannot. The minute that I sit still, I start moving. As you can tell, I start moving. That's just me, and it's
Yeah.
totally fine. I adopt them, and I'm like, for me at the beginning, I was like no, this is me. this
Yeah.
is this is me. It's not, I'm not nervous. I'm actually very calm, very relaxed, but I'm just like, that's me, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you start seeing the need, you start taking more holistic way, which I think is wonderful. Now, going through that particular path, what is one thing that you realize it was something that everybody should know when it comes down to ADHD? What would be one thing that everybody that has ADHD or don't necessarily knows? Because a lot of people don't know that they have it, right?
That's very
Until
true.
they go and get diagnosed. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's just like, oh, it's my phone, is technology or whatnot nowadays. Back in the
Yeah.
days, it was way different, right? It was,
Mm-hmm.
we were able to identify, but now technology takes place for a lot of the things that we have or
Mm-hmm.
we develop nowadays. But what would be one thing for you that you think, like, every person with ADHD, a tool that you think can help them support that particular path?
Yeah. That's a great question, Omar. And I don't know if I can narrow it down to one little thing, but there's several things that came to my mind while you were asking the question. One thing is, there is a lot of noise out there right now about ADHD. Like, it's like ADHD and autism have kind of become, the flavor of the decade. Like, everyone thinks they have it. And a lot of people do have it. It is very common. But I will say that um, there are there's kind of two basic thoughts or philosophies about it, or beliefs about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the medical model tells us that it's, genetic, that
Yeah.
you can only have ADHD if your parent, one or both of your parents had ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And that if your parents' eyes are brown, your eyes are brown. If your parents have ADHD, you're going to have ADHD. And the medical world, and there's a lot of evidence that proves that. And there are other people of other beliefs that believe that there are environmental factors and traumatic factors and life experiences that may have happened to you at some point in your life that cause you to have the disruptive pattern in your brain where you can't concentrate and focus for a long time. So it's because something happened to you and that's why you have ADHD. And you have these naysayers. And what I think is important, and my perspective is, well, they're kind of both important beliefs, and you don't have to have one or the other. There's no black and white. There's so much about the brain that we don't know. And the very definition of a genetic condition has to do not only with the DNA that you inherited chemically from your parents, but environmental factors also affect your genes and your DNA and what comes out. So, yes, can anyone get cancer who's exposed to some things? Yes, your parents don't have to have had cancer for you to get it. But are there people who are more genetically predisposed to getting cancer? And then when they get environmental exposures, the cancer is expressed in their body. Well, I think that a lot of disease processes are like that. And I think that we need to have a very open mind and not say, well, it's one or the other. Let's look at the whole equation, and let's really have let's really see what are some of the lifestyle external factors that we could improve that will help improve our focus and our ADHD. We can't do anything about who our parents are. Our genes are our genes, but we still can improve a lot of our symptoms and how well we function within our environments by implementing certain lifestyle and external factors that we can have control over. And I think it's really important to realize that. So there's no cure. Your symptoms are your symptoms, but you can definitely improve the way you function. And that's why I believe that lifestyle is so important, because we have medications. Medications can help us from the chemical side of the ADHD, and that is a real thing. And I'm not denying that one bit. But I think that we have to work in harmony with both sides of life, both sides of existence. And it's not just all 100% science that we can prove. There's a lot about the brain that we know we can't prove.
Yeah.
And it still makes it real, and it still makes it valuable information, and it still makes it important. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things I've seen, like in social media lately, is this big controversy. So I just want to say what, that belief that I have, that it's just, we got to look at all sides, and don't ever discount the genetic side, of course, but don't discount the environmental side either, because that's the part that, hey, we can get better. Just like you can improve, for example, your diabetes when you improve your diet and your habits, whether you're
Yeah.
genetically predisposed or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you so much. I think it's really important to take on the fact that you mentioned it's okay if you have it. Your genetics is nothing you can change. Like, don't look in the past. Like, this is all we can have. This is all we have. How are we going to improve this? Regardless of whatever, let's start with your environment. Let's start with you. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times we focus on, oh, I have ADHD. I got to, in this case, like diagnose them with pills and whatnot, which some of us needs it. Like some of us needs it. However, let's look at a little further down, right? You're going into the brain, and okay, how the brain functions. The brain doesn't, well, the subconsciousness can only concentrate in the emotions, feelings, experience, and memories, right? But the
Right.
conscious mind can only concentrate in this moment. You can even think about the future. You just concentrate in this moment and moving forward. So
Hmm.
this is all we have. What are we gonna do about it?
What are we going to do about it?
I really love that. Now, you obviously struggle with it. Not
A
just
lot.
that, a lot, right? You you manage to be very successful in your own environment and everything you've been doing. You acquire skills in order for you to succeed and to have the success that you have at the moment. Then you have two kids. For the moms up there, what would be important for them to know so they can help and support their kids in the most lovable way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The most important thing that I want moms to know, and dads too, is that you have to pause and take a deep breath. You'd have
I
to
know.
do that
I
multiple times a day.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to not be afraid to see, to when you recognize, because, and this is for the parents who, I can't tell you how many parents I have sat across from in my exam room, and they have told me, they've just crossed their arms and they've said, Veronica, it's like I'm looking at my 12-year-old self in the mirror, because they're talking about the frustrations. And I remember being like that. And I remember doing this at school. And I remember my mom having the same frustrations and this and that. And I would tell parents that, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of what you're looking at. It doesn't make you any less of an effective parent. It doesn't make you any less effective, loving, valuable. You have to learn empathy, compassion. You have to remember how you felt when you were that age, when you do look at them and you see yourself in the mirror, and it's perfectly okay to have an open conversation with your kids and say, I know how you felt, or how you feel, sorry, rather, because I felt the same way when I was your age. And a lot of parents forget that. Like, the more you can relate, you can empathize. It doesn't mean that you're excusing whatever behavior it is, right? Like, because we get frustrated, like, oh, you didn't turn in homework again, or whatever. Like, it's okay. I remember how it felt to be overwhelmed. I remember how it felt to forget important things and get a bad grade because I forgot about something or whatever. And when you relate to your kids that way, it doesn't mean you're not going to give them a consequence, or they're not going to have their own natural consequence at school because of the bad grade or whatever it is we're talking about. But relating to your kids is so important, and having that empathy and having a lot of that patience. And I always ask parents to just stop and take a deep breath. Remember that you're not perfect either, mom and dad, even if you are holding down a great job and paying all the bills and, giving your kids this wonderful lifestyle that you've worked hard to do. You're still not perfect. It doesn't make you're a loving and great parent, but you're also an imperfect human being. And your child is an imperfect human being, and you can correct them and you can give them loving discipline, but you have to do it from a relatable perspective, because kids with ADHD do tend to also be hypersensitive to being corrected. They tend to be hyper emotional, sometimes like overreact, oversensitive to what other kids might not be so sensitive to. And we have trouble regulating our emotions.
hmm
So I would say, parents, if you notice that you have trouble regulating your emotions, come together, work on that together with your kids.
yeah,
Yeah, it's we have to redefine the parent-child relationship. I'm not
yeah,
saying give away your authority. No, you still have authority, you still have boundaries, you still have rules and expectations, and there are still consequences. But the way we communicate it can be so loving if we
yeah,
choose to be. And that's really a very important skill that it's not easy to do. And listen, as a mom of two ADHD teenagers, I did not always have that skill. I'm not saying that I was always great in
yeah,
practicing that, but my kids are older now. Like, my son is 19 now, and so I
yeah,
have seen the light at the end of the tunnel. It does get better. ADHD
yeah,
symptoms do get better as the brain matures. I've seen
yeah,
that firsthand clinically. I've seen it
yeah,
with patients. I've read it in studies. I've experienced it as a parent. I've
yeah,
experienced it in my own life of how I've been able to improve certain things and not just be getting by in life, but working a full-time job, raising kids, and starting a coaching practice. Like I
Yeah.
would have never been able to do that before.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the whole entire history you just gave us, because I think it's very important to empathize with our kids.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that you mentioned that put yourself into to their place. Sometimes I talk to my daughter and I say, I understand. Like, I used to be X, Y, and Z, and I try to, and she's like, "Oh, really?" And then I started having conversation because she's curious,
Yeah.
and I'll let her know my stories, and I say, "Yeah, And sometimes I'm like, me as I'm speaking to her, I'm like, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, meaning, why should I be so upset with certain behaviors that she has that me I struggled when I was a kid. All my parents deal with it in a very, very different manner, which it's okay. They didn't know better,
Right.
But now I know better. I had better skills. I wouldn't say better skills. I had just different skills and coping mechanisms that are helping me understand and get together with my daughter. The other thing that you mentioned, it's the fact that don't beat yourself down. I think as a parents, we want the best for our kids, but we really if something doesn't go well for them, we start carrying a lot of guilt. We start, and not just guilt for I didn't do a good job, like everything is my fault,
Mhm.
and so on, and you just continue in that rabbit hole that sometimes it can get very ugly. I'll be honest with you, because it's just not very pleasant. What would you say for you? You experience obviously having kids in the clinical department, and now working with all these parents and all the patients that you are working in, people and clients that you have. What would you say it's something, a pattern that you see that a lots of parents they struggle with ADHD? They have whether is the guilt, they coming from a guilt conscious, or they coming from not they're not good enough as a parent,
Mm.
or sometimes they coming just for I give up, like defeated, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what would you say it's a pattern you see as a like working with all those people you see the
Well,
most?
yeah, typically by the time they come to see me, they're overwhelmed and they're throwing up their
Overwhelmed.
hands and they just want to give up
Okay.
because they're 9 times out of 10, they also, keep in mind, probably have a lot of ADHD characteristics themselves. And so when you do, and parenting is a hard enough job as it is, right?
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
when you throw ADHD on top of that, or not even ADHD, even when we're your parents, individuals who deal with anxiety disorders or depression or schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, any and any struggle that you as a human being bring to the parenting arena is already going to um, I don't want to say cripple because that sounds like such a defeatist word, but it's it's going to feel much harder, and it
Yeah.
already is a hard job. Like you're already carrying the weight of the world, and then you have now the weight of the world and the rest of the galaxy on top of you. It is very it's very easy to get overwhelmed. It's very easy to feel guilty. I feel guilty because I punished him for doing this and he can't really help it because it's his ADHD. And was that the wrong thing to do or the right thing to do? I don't know. And also, we have trouble as parents staying consistent in our expectations and consistent in the consequences of things. Um, because we ourselves struggle with consistency when we have ADHD. Like keeping consistent habits is one of the hardest challenges for anybody to do. And even, let's be real, even if you don't have ADHD, just with all the external distractions and notifications and pings and beeps and everything that we all have
Yeah.
in our modern world, right? It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really walk parents through first of all, forgiving themselves first, and then forgiving their child for whatever thought they may have had. Because I'm here to tell you, you can have some pretty strong thoughts towards your child that are not all, beautiful,
Yeah.
right? In
Yeah.
the moment.
Hmm.
And not to say that we don't love our kids. We all love our children to death, and they are the most precious thing to us. But
Hmm.
when you're in the heat of moment of parenting a hard, situation, a difficult situation, if you don't have the grounding and the training that you need, it's much harder to get through. I know I struggled with it for a long time, and working with other professionals is one of the things that helped me. Letting sitting in front of, for example, a therapist with my daughter and myself, and my daughter was already a teenager, and she was able to freely say, Mom, when you're anxious, I get more anxious. Your anxiety
Hmm.
affects me directly.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I know it's energy. And I had
Yeah.
never heard it from her mouth, but to hear it from her really affected me. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of us as parents, because when you have ADHD, I think there's a fine line between anxiety and ADHD, right? A lot of those symptoms overlap. Not for everybody, but for a lot of us. For me, I know they do. And it was so refreshing in a way. I mean, not in the moment, but looking back, and now that I
Yeah.
have the tool, it
Yeah.
was so refreshing that my daughter was able to call me out in a safe space and say, you need to bring down your anxiety, and you need to stop worrying about my grades, because the more you worry about my grades, the more I worry, and then I can't function. So
Hmm.
I've got this, Mom. You need to trust me and believe in me and let me do it.
Yeah.
And then I never checked her grades again on the electronic.
Oh.
I never checked them again. And guess what? She does beautifully, and she's happy,
Yeah.
and she's thriving. And here we are X number of years later, and she and I have a beautiful, strong relationship. She's 16.
Yeah.
Do you know how many 16-year-old mother-daughter pairs would love to have a close knit,
Yeah.
loving and trusting relationship? It's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
have a close relationship with your 16-year-old child, because they don't want you, and that's normal. They want to be independent. They want to have everything figured out. But they
Hmm.
still need you. That's the reality, and you know that as a parent.
Yeah.
They don't know that. But
Yeah.
giving them the space to trust in them and
Hmm.
let them try to figure it out for themselves. And
Hmm.
if they fall, they fall, but then they're learning a lesson. You're there to catch them and help guide them at that
Yeah.
time. But having the courage to do that is a very, it's no small feat. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of courage. So
Yeah.
I really walk through parents, helping them to open up their mindset to parenting, so that they're not parenting so reactively and just
Mm.
like how their parents parented them, because
Yeah.
that doesn't, we all know generationally that doesn't work well, because our kids are living a different childhood than we lived.
Yeah.
So of course the same parenting is not going to work, because it's a different childhood. It's a different world now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. I really appreciate that you sharing your own personal experience as well. The fact that it's very impressive to me, learn the fact that you seek help, professional help, in this case, a therapist. I think is very, very helpful. And I strongly recommend to every person, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a psychologist, whatever you feel you really need, make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you go with someone that's going to help you professionally. We can go in the medical side. However, if there's other options, let's explore other options. I love the fact that you mentioned just open yourself to new experiences and new ideas. I think that to me, it's key, is the first thing to just for anything and everything you want to create. Just be open minded. You already know what you know at the moment,
Right.
but let's look at this other door. And you might say like, "What's in there?" That's a great question. Go and try to open it, but it doesn't open. Keep pushing, right? It doesn't open. There's another door. Go for it, right? We just continue to have that open minded to obviously to our new world as everything continues to evolve. Obviously, with technology and with all the things that we are happening, with they are happening in the world, it continues to be a little more sensitive. In this
Mhm.
case, you mentioned, the fact that is very sensitive topic right now when it comes down to ADHD and OCD. It gets involved too. Of
Yeah.
course, obviously, I have OCD. There are certain things that it has to be a certain way because otherwise, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. It's just something. If it doesn't happen X, Y, and Z, I'm like, something doesn't feel right. What happened? Right? That takes into
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, Omar, because I feel like OCD is a very common defense mechanism, if you will, for
yeah,
ADHD people as they
yeah,
get older and as they learn
hmm
to, navigate the world and how complex it is when we start adulting, as people say.
yeah,
I certainly have a lot of components of that as well. And I know that I do it to keep myself safe. That's like my little insurance policy or my little OCD behaviors that I know
right.
are going to, help me to remember to follow through on certain things or to be a certain, I guess, be able to reach or live up to all my responsibilities sometimes.
Yeah.
That's so interesting that you said that. I love that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I make it part of my process. My process. Yeah, my process. I call it. I like to call it my. It's my process.
Hmm.
Like in this particular space that I'm doing when I'm recording and everything. There are certain things that I had to do in a certain way because at that I start getting into the energy. So I make it instead of me like, oh, it has to be this way. I don't look at it that way. I'm like, I had to get in the rhythm. I had to get in
Yeah.
put into the energy. And for me, it's like making things flow. It's not I'm so high. It's not I'm so down. I'm just here. It's fine.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
okay. And just
Yeah.
like navigating with that. But anyways, thank you so much. And really, this is really amazing. It's been amazing. We've been talking about a little bit of your history and what you do. I want to talk a little bit more your entrepreneurial life
Oh, okay.
because you
What do you want to know?
completely changed, completely you immerse into something new, something
Hmm.
scary. Well, a lot of us are it gets scary when you're trying to go on your own, uh, create your own business,
Hmm.
become an entrepreneur. It's something as a person that has ADHD, I can personally say that is one of the most scariest things I ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Just because I'm doing so much, and now that when I look at him, yeah, I'm doing personal training. I have my coaching and mentor business, and I have an e-commerce. And I look at him like, but that's just me. I look at it as like I'm very creative,
Mhm.
right? I use the term a lot of reverse psychology or reverse engineering where I
Mhm.
use different words to trick my brain. We usually say it like I'm busy. I like to say I'm very productive. I have
Mhm.
a very productive switch. It completely switched, and I learned
Completely.
that particular framework since 2018. Ever since 2018, I try to use different words to completely change my framework and the
Mhm.
way my certain chemicals in my brain activates, and I'm like, yeah, I got to activate in a different way just
Yes.
because you got to go in a different direction. As an entrepreneur, you obviously know it gets challenged at times.
Mhm.
What has been one of the most scary things for you, or challenging? I wouldn't say scary. One of the most challenging things going in your own journey as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, with all the noise that you hear regarding the coaching career that we have embarked.
Yeah. So what's been the biggest challenge, you think?
Yeah, what
Is
has been the
that
biggest challenge? Yeah.
um yeah, sorry. I got so wrapped up in all those thoughts that you were like bringing up for me. I was like, wait a minute, wait, what's the question? Like I think that well, there's a lot of challenges, especially and I know everyone's challenges are unique, so I'm just going to speak from my experience. Um I come from a medical background. I'm still working in medicine in my medical career. And in medicine, I have had this long 20 plus year career that's been very successful. Um, and the easy thing about that career is that people just come to me naturally. Like I just show up to work and people are on my schedule. I've never had to be involved in the business side of it where I have to market myself or sell my services or put myself out there, so to speak. Like I get to hide behind a little office door and then walk to an exam room, close the door, and just be one-on-one with my patients. So I have a very quiet, intimate type of work life. And when you shift to opening your own, practice in coaching, for example, what we do, it's like, wow, now I have to tell people what I do actively. Now I have to network with people. Now I have to try to meet people in different settings. And oh my gosh. And so thank goodness our coaching school did have somewhat of when we graduated, there was like a business training after to get us into the world of coaching and starting to open a practice and now use your coaching to do what you want to do. And I will tell you that as wonderful as a school as we went to, I was not able to keep up with that business training because it was so overwhelming to me. And there was so much terminology that I didn't know. And so much of it is now, all virtual and web-based. And I don't know anything about websites and I don't know what SSO means. And I don't know what,
Yeah.
all the little things that this is important and that's important. And I was just like, oh my gosh, overwhelmed. So for me, the saying, coaches need coaches, right?
It's true.
we're normal people too. So I tried a business coaching program to get me to help build my confidence in talking about and selling my services. And that was a group program. And I did learn a lot from that. And it was very valuable for me. But I got lost in the weeds and it's just such a big program. And it still exists today and it's wonderful. And I love it. But it just was a little too general for me. I'm a medical person. I need specific guidelines. This is how my brain has been trained to
Yeah.
work in my schooling and now in my career. I need an algorithm to follow that's specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept looking and looking and looking. And finally, this last year, I met a wonderful coach that helps medical professionals build their own businesses. So she's
Yeah.
very specific. She knows that she can't just tell me regular business jargon and expect me to get it. She has to tell me what all of it means. She can't just say, you've heard all business coaches, just go out and do it messy. Just do it. Just put it out there. And I'm like, that goes against all my wiring that I have up here for 20 something years, because in medicine, we don't do anything messy. We have to be super
Yeah.
precise. Everything has to be perfect or someone's life is at jeopardy. And
Exactly.
when we're prescribing medications and whatnot. So I'm like, that didn't feel comfortable to me, all that other stuff that's, in general out there. And I know there's a lot of amazing business coaches, but I would say to someone, what helped me is finding a very specific coach that knows how my brain works because I'm in the
Yeah.
medical field and how I can translate that to starting my business. And I'm working with her now. And I've only been working with her a short time, but I decided to invest in working with her one-on-one, which was a sacrifice. And that was a little scary. So you've got to be willing to take some risk. I'm very risk averse because I come from the field of medicine where we don't take risks.
Yeah.
Right? We
Yeah.
don't do
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
unless it's been proven in a scientific journal and studied
Exactly.
and whatnot. So I'm not a risk taker. And I need a lot of structure and I'm not comfortable with just do it messy and put it out there. I am learning to let go of that and grow out of that very, methodical mentality. But I have found someone who is very specific for me, who works beautifully with that. So I think that was the biggest struggle for me, was just getting out of my shell, getting out of my comfort zone. The first time, Omar, I went to an in-person networking event to talk about my new coaching practice. I walked into the venue and I was so nervous. Got hot, like I was having a midlife hot flash. to the point where my glasses completely fogged over
Yeah.
while I was talking to someone.
Wow.
That's how scared I was. That's how embarrassing. And then
Wow.
that was embarrassing for me too. I had to excuse myself. So just like, that was really hard. It is just being able to get out there, get out of your comfort zone and do things that you've never done before and learn that that felt like a risk, but my life was not in danger, you know? And
Yeah.
it turned out to be fine. And I actually made some really nice friendships and relationships out of that. So does that answer your question? Like
No,
now I feel like
absolutely. No, thank you so
I don't know
much.
if I'm
No,
going on a
this
tangent.
is awesome. I really appreciate the fact that you're so open talking about it. And one of the things that stands out for me is the fact that you seek help,
Yeah.
but not just any particular help. You seek help for the problem that you were trying to solve. However, because you are very self-aware yourself, you seek help. This is how I function. This is how I work. I need somebody that understands this particular framework. And
Hmm.
there's such a person. That to me stands out the power of your knowing your niche,
Hmm.
understanding who you really want to serve.
Yeah.
Not just the I help people because X, Y, and Z. No, you're
Hmm.
very specific and you will reach out to those people. Not just because you know the frameworks. Sometimes in this case, personal experience, you have not just experience of going through the school, you have 20 plus years. So you have a whole entire background and you working right now with with a person that is very specific on the background that you have. In that particular part of me, it's I think it's beautiful. And
Thank you.
me personally, I do work with a lot of people and I'm trying to help them understand it's really important for you to understand your niche. The only reason why I'm working with you, I'm a mentor and coach in entrepreneurship. The only reason why I'm working with you is because I understand the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. I have a lot of background on certain things. At the same time, I do have a mentor, and not just one person.
Hmm.
I have, I call it, this is my pillars. There's different pillars of the things that I'm working. It's one on entrepreneurship, one on financial. I had to learn all the ins and outs when it comes down to the financial things. That
Yes.
that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. It's just like open your business, like you said, just open your business. It's gonna be messy. Just do it. All of a sudden, they don't take into account all the things that you need to expand without gaining anything.
Hmm.
Right? You had to spend before that, so you had to work on that. Then another person telling me how am I going to advertise or marketing, working like I need to learn strategies on how to market myself.
Yeah.
Like you say, now I'm not anymore behind the door. Now
Yeah.
it's me representing. And this is what I tell people. I'm like, there's two. One is your brand and one is you. It's just like your job, right?
Hmm.
Your job and this is you. Well, just you're still you, but this is your brand now.
Hmm.
Just do the same thing. Just separate both. And for me, that's powerful because I'm like, just separate both.
Yeah.
It's not what you like. It's not what you think. It's what
Right.
your brand stands for.
Yes.
In this case, for me, it's really, really clear of what you're standing for and the cause that you have behind. Your mission is to me is very beautiful. And I just want to say that congratulations on anything and everything that you've been doing, not
Oh,
just as
thank
a
you.
parent, not just on the career that you have, but in your entrepreneurial uh, journey. I think it's beautiful to see how little by little, what amazed me is the fact that you're still working and you're still building your business. And I want you to talk about that because a lot of people
Okay.
think they need to get one out and just go all in, which I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. I don't recommend if you don't have, in this case, the when it comes down to it, you don't have the people that is going to be supporting you, like the
Right. Right.
professionals that are going to support you going into that path.
Hmm.
Why? Because doing it by yourself, like you said, you went through that whole entire coaching program, the business program that the school provides, and you're like, this is just crazy. I don't understand half of this stuff. Like they speak in a different language. They speak in French.
Right.
Like, and I'm going to
Exactly.
speak a different language, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about that, because I think it's it's mind blowing to me, the fact that you are excelling at both.
Thank you. Well, I would say there are many days, I'm not going to lie. Um, there are many days that I wake up and I wish that I didn't have to go to my day job still because I have so many ideas flowing, and I get these creative bursts of I can do this and I can do that, and what if I wrote a course, and what if I created this type of program. And I have really the creative side of my brain has really flourished with this whole entrepreneurial journey. And I love that because I feel like that's the part of my flow that makes me feel most alive, because my day job as my career is a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful for that, and I love the people that I serve, but it's very limited. There's not much creativity going on there. It's like listening to a history of the patient, formulating what's going on and creating a treatment plan. And for the most part, the treatment plans, even though they're customized within each patient, they're still very basic templates, right? So there's not a lot of creativity going on from 7:45 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's mostly like solve this problem, solve this problem, solve this problem. But your answers are only, you only have the same multiple choice answers for every single problem, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you get to use your creative side of your brain so much. And I've been craving that in my existence for so many years.
Yeah.
And I love the balance that I get. I love, and to be honest, I mean, I still do my day job because I'm still building my business, and my business isn't flourished enough, isn't grown enough yet. It's still so young. It can't support me, I mean, I have to be financially responsible to myself and my kids. And if I were to leave my job tomorrow and just do my business, I don't know how we'd eat in 2 weeks from now, So
Mhm.
I have to,
Yeah.
for me, I don't have a choice right now. And I'm okay with that because it's helping me to get my feet wet in the journey and build my practice at my pace and not feel
Mm.
overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
I have to look at that as a blessing, because I do get overwhelmed easily when I want to, because I do
Yeah.
want to build a sustainable practice that when I retire from clinical medicine, I can do that full time. And
All
and
right.
I have that vision for my life. I do. And however, I know that I have to do it responsibly. I know that I have a financial responsibility to myself and my children. And and I want to set the best example I can for them based on, their well-being and mine, but also based on what I see for our future.
Yeah.
And yes, they're young adults now, or becoming young adults, and they will be on their own soon. But I tell them, we're going to sacrifice now as a family a little bit with my time so that I will be in a better place to help you even more in the future. And when I say that to them, they're like, okay, mom, fine. Yeah, we'll be quiet while you get on the podcast. We'll be quiet while you talk to your clients, and they do. They scatter, they let me work, and they do the things that are required. It is hard, and it sometimes feels a little overwhelming. I think consistency has been my biggest struggle with that, because um, it, already, you're doing so much, and then you want to keep working on your business and keep doing the backside of the business that I'm learning still. Um, that overwhelms me. I would not be able to do that without the support of a coach. And now I know exactly what I need. When I first started my coaching practice, I didn't know what I didn't know about business. People would say, "Oh, what do you want out of your business?" Or what is your, what do you want out of your website? I'm like, well, I don't know. What are my options? I didn't
Yeah.
know anything. I started from
Yeah.
scratch.
Yeah.
Um, and and so I would just say, you can do it. If you work a full-time job for someone else and you're in a position where you have to still be financially responsible for your family, don't let that hold you back from your dream. And if you have an entrepreneurial dream and you want to try it, try it. There's so much support out there. There's coaches like you who mentor this, you know. People will find you. People need that support. And I would just encourage anyone that feels like that might be their next chapter in their life, try it. Do it.
Yeah.
See how you grow. I have had so much personal growth from this, more than I could ever get out of a book or a podcast or a conference or, you know, whatever. Just the going through the day-to-day of it has really helped me heal a lot of things that I didn't even know needed healing within me.
Yeah.
I've gained so much self-awareness because I've gone on the path, because of, you know, all the coaching I have received and the coaching that I studied and put into practice as learning to become a coach. Um,
Yeah.
I just, I'm in love with it. I'm in love with my life the way it is. And I will be in love with it when I'm a full-time coach too. I just think that there's so many we get to learn about ourselves from all of the different experiences and timelines in our life, you know, all the different things we live through. So
Yeah.
I would encourage people to try it and not to be afraid of that. And
Yeah.
you don't have to quit your full-time job to flourish at being an entrepreneur. You can do it slowly, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think there's so much
Absolutely.
pressure on social media, like, you know, become a millionaire with AI in 2 days, you know, like what? You know, buy this and buy that, and you'll be, you know, you'll retire in
Hmm.
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But the reality of it is that that's not reality in most cases. I'm not saying it never has been. I know there's exceptions to everything. But if you're
Yeah.
going to do it sustainable and you feel like I'm just a regular person, I don't have all this extraordinary business knowledge or training or background, I would say it's okay. There is someone out there for you that can help you.
Yeah. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. It's so powerful, though. Entrepreneurship is personal growth.
It's so much personal growth.
It's so much personal growth, and I always seen it as a personal growth to me. And like when you mention that, I'm like, finally, somebody else. Like I just this is beautiful. The way you spoke about it, the way you were sharing your story and everything. The other thing that for me stands out is the fact that you are grateful and understand how your job is supporting your entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
I think for me is key. And when I work with people, I'm like, what are the things that your job is supporting you at the moment? Well, I don't like X ways, like you said. You know, sometimes there's no creativity. All this, I don't like the people I work with. I get that. I
We've all had
understand.
that. Yes.
I understand
And
that.
I'm not saying I don't have
Yeah,
that,
yeah. Like
but
how is supporting you?
yeah.
Oh, it's giving me X, Y. So I'm like, let's focus on that,
Yeah.
and then be honest with yourself. That's the other thing that I appreciate. Like you are really honest with yourself. Like in this case, talking to your kids. Like, listen, at the moment we had to sacrifice. We
Mhm.
need to do this so I can support you even better in the future.
Mhm.
And they understand. They very supportive, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's huge. Is the support not just for the family, but you seek support and you give support, and that's the whole entire circle. For me, it's very powerful.
Mhm.
Veronica, it's been amazing speaking to you. And
Thank
I mean,
you.
I can continue. We can continue, go on, and I'm definitely gonna have to bring you back because we have so much to speak about, not just entrepreneurship, but ADHD and how you growing and how you are creating so many things and how you continue to be creative. And for me, that's been fascinating speaking to you. Is there anything that I haven't give you the opportunity to share that you would like to share with us?
Oh gosh. Well, thank you, first of all. It's been an honor to be here. I just love sharing the energy of the power of coaching in general, and how I think it's such a beautiful thing how so many coaches are going through coaching programs these days, and how the field is growing, and yet we each offer something so unique.
Yes.
We each like have such a unique um area to serve or niche to serve. We each have our own gifts that we bring that are unique. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. And I love that I've been able to the community that we have with our alumni group, and meeting new colleagues. And I love the energy that it brings, not only in our conversations here, but like this energy that we bring here, it like emanates into the universe. And
Yeah.
the more of us that are vibrating on this love vibration, on this frequency, I just think that it's so beautiful. I think we're gonna do wonderful things to help our society in general, to globally, and wherever we are, wherever we live locally. Um, so I'm just very grateful for all of it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I look forward to being back as a guest again. So
No,
thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna put all your information on the comments so people can contact you. I think you brought an amazing topic. You helped me understand so many things with the chat, and I just want to say thank you so much. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to chat and help me understand certain things that I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, that makes sense. No, I'm going from the bottom of my heart, like seriously, thank you so much for being here, and for all of you that have been watching. I just want to thank you. I really, really appreciate the fact that we've been in our fourth episode, and it's been amazing coming back and being here with all of you. I love being in camera. There's something about this camera that I really
Yes.
love. That once I turn it on, for me, I'm just on the flow. I forget about anything and everything that is happening. I just fully immerse in with all my energy and my heart. And I bring you people that I hope that is helping you understand that the journey of entrepreneurship, it's beautiful. It gets messy, but it's so worth it. And in whatever part of your journey you are, just want to let you know that we love you. We're here to support you. And I'm going to continue to do my best to bring you guests like Veronica and some amazing guests coming up pretty soon. So I hope you stay tuned and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.